Welcome back, everyone. In this explainer, we're diving into the core summary of the 7th session, directly based on the manuscript and script from our source material on the strategies behind the numbers. I'm incredibly excited to walk you through this today because, let's be real, ROI math can sometimes feel a bit dry. But today, we're going to flip that and transform those numbers into a highly dynamic, actionable project strategy. If you've ever felt like project costs are a constantly moving target, this session is exactly what you need to get some structured clarity.
So let me hit you with the question right out of the gate. A classic trap that actually trips up even the most seasoned managers. Is high cost reduction unconditionally a success? It's a super common myth to look at a massive savings projection and immediately pop the champagne. But our sources make it abundantly clear that this is a really dangerous mindset. Big savings do not automatically equal success. You have to step back and weigh the comprehensive total investment costs against those continuous financial effects. Think about it. If it costs you $2 million in implementation just to save $1 million down the line, that is not a success, no matter how amazing that reduction looks on your spreadsheet.
Okay, here is how we're going to break this all down today. First, conditions for accurate ROI. Second, structuring cost and schedule. Third, AI-based scenario analysis. Fourth, the execution risk identification process. And finally, number 5, response strategies for uncertainty. Let's jump in.
Starting off with Section 1, Conditions for Accurate ROI. This is the foundation, folks.
Take a look at the clear distinction here between an activity and an event. Mixing these two up is a massive, widespread trap in project management. An activity is where you are actually burning through resources. We're talking people, heavy equipment, raw materials. Because of that, costs are incurred. An event, on the other hand, that's just a project milestone. It's a date on a calendar, like an approval or a kickoff. No resources are actually being consumed, which means absolutely no costs are incurred. Our source material stresses that this tiny little definition error can completely skew your cost calculations. If you accidentally estimate human labor for a pure milestone event, you are literally artificially inflating your costs and ruining your ROI accuracy before you even start.
Moving right along to Section 2, structuring cost and schedule.
All right, look at this formula right in the center. Cost equals activity multiplied by resource multiplied by unit cost. Now, the real magic happens when you connect all this through your WBS, the work breakdown structure, and your CBS, the cost breakdown structure. Think of it like a giant puzzle. The WBS tells you exactly what tasks need to be done, breaking a massive project into bite-sized activities. The CBS then tells you how much each of those specific little activities is actually going to cost. By snapping these pieces together, you are tracking every single dollar with pinpoint accuracy, leaving absolutely zero room for those nasty hidden expenses to sneak in and destroy your ROI.
But hey, we all know costs aren't just about materials and labor, right? Time is literally money. Enter the critical path method, or CPM. The critical path is simply the longest sequence of essential, non-negotiable tasks that determines your project's final finish date. The huge takeaway here is the time-cost trade-off. Any delay on this critical path is a delay for the entire project. And schedule delays aren't just a lost day on a calendar, they mean extended equipment rentals, longer labor hours, and ballooning overhead. A schedule slip is a direct cost increase that will absolutely kill your ROI.
Which brings us to Section 3, AI-based scenario analysis. This is where things get really interesting. Now, our sources do not frame AI as some sort of magic crystal ball. Instead, it's a strategic decision accelerator. But before we get totally carried away, we need a reality check. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. AI's ability to predict ROI and run these complex scenarios relies 100% on the accuracy of the human input data. I'm talking about those WBS and CBS structures we just covered. If your unit costs are outdated from 3 years ago, or your activity definitions are a mess, the AI is just going to hand you a highly calculated, confidently delivered, completely incorrect number. Human accountability in getting that data right is non-negotiable.
But when you do feed it the right data, the processing speed is an absolute game changer. Notice how the 3 scenarios outlined in this table handle real-world chaos. Because let's face it, in reality, material prices bounce around, schedules slip, and labor costs spike all at the exact same time. Relying on a single static ROI number is basically flying blind. AI instantly crunches all these messy combinations like, hey, what happens to our ROI if material prices drop, but our schedule is delayed and our labor costs go up simultaneously? By simulating best case, base case, and worst case scenarios in literal milliseconds, AI ensures you are prepared for reality, not just some optimistic fantasy.
All right, shifting gears to Section 4, Execution Risk Identification Process, Finding the Hidden Landmines. Because look, no matter how bulletproof your AI scenarios are, you are going to face uncertainties during execution. It's inevitable. We need to redefine risk practically here. Risk equals probability multiplied by impact. Successful project management is not about trying to magically eliminate all risks. That's a fool's errand. It's about systematically managing them. If a risk has a tiny probability but a massive, project-killing impact, it absolutely demands your attention. But if something happens all the time but barely makes a dent in your bottom line, you deprioritize it. So, how do we actually spot these risks before they bite us? The source material highlights a phenomenal tool, FMEA, or Failure Mode and Effects Analysis. The visual breakdown you see here forces you to define the exact failure mode, like what exactly could go wrong. Then you dig into the cause. Why would that happen in the first place? And finally, the effect. What is the actual impact on the project? This tool is brilliant because it completely replaces vague, gut feelings with a highly structured, cold, hard, logical approach to finding risks so you can actually deal with them.
And listen, managing those risks is not just a one-and-done kickoff meeting. It's a continuous, relentless life cycle. First, you identify the risks using tools like FMEA. Second, you assess them based on that probability and impact math. Third, you mitigate them by creating actual concrete action plans. And fourth, you monitor them. You just loop through these 4 stages over and over again. This cycle continues adapting and evolving until the project is literally out the door.
Finally, Section 5, Response Strategies for Uncertainty. What do we do when things go sideways?
Spotting the risk is only half the battle, right? Now we need action. The crucial point here is choosing from these 4 core response strategies. You can avoid the risk entirely by just changing your plan. You can mitigate it by taking active steps to lower the probability or the impact. You can transfer it, think buying insurance or outsourcing a tricky part to a specialized vendor. Or, if the impact is totally negligible, you simply accept it and move on. AI can absolutely help you model these options to see the financial fallout of each, but make no mistake, human judgment is always the final boss in choosing which strategy to deploy.
Let's ground this in the real world for a second. External factors like crazy material price volatility, wildly fluctuating exchange rates, and sudden union labor cost increases are constantly stress testing our baseline ROI assumptions. They demand total strategic agility. This is exactly why you cannot just calculate your ROI, lock it in a desk drawer on day 1 and hope for the best. You have to continuously monitor these external variables and run dynamic AI simulations to steer the ship in real time.
And that brings us to our final takeaway. We've seen how nailing your data structure, getting real about scheduling, and leveraging AI-powered scenario modeling completely redefines how we approach cost reduction. AI isn't some futuristic luxury anymore. It is your ultimate decision accelerator right now. So I want to leave you with a question to really ponder as you take this back to your teams. With AI in your corner, acting as your decision accelerator, how are you going to manage the unpredictable on your next big project? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I seriously can't wait to see how you put these frameworks into action.